Okay? And at the level of the papilla, down here, this collecting duct is going to empty the filtrate into the minor calyx. So the collecting duct is going to transport that filtrate down to the minor calyx. Now, the collecting duct is not considered part of the renal tubule. It's not considered part of the renal tubule.
Dr. Penner,
Yeah.
does the loop thin because it's just allows for more filtration, or?
Well,
why
we're
is it-
going to get to that. It's thin because it's made up of the simple squamous epithelium, as opposed to this thick part, which has a simple cuboidal epithelium. So it's got a thicker wall. But that does influence what it filters. Okay, let's go back here. Remember our efferent arteriole? What happens to our efferent arteriole? It's going to carry this blood from the glomerulus, and it's going to form another little bed of capillaries that are surrounding the renal tubule. These capillaries kind of twist and turn and divide and then join each other again. These capillaries that come off the efferent arteriole that surround the renal tubule, these are called peritubular capillaries. Peritubular capillaries. So this tubule is going to be surrounded by capillaries, which serve an important purpose. We said that the filtrate, once it enters into the renal tubule, it's further processed. Much of this filtrate that's formed within the corpuscle gets reabsorbed back to the bloodstream. In fact, the major site of reabsorption is the PCT. So stuff that was originally filtered like this and is in the PCT, look what happens. It can get reabsorbed back into the bloodstream, meaning it's going to be transported from the lumen of the renal tubule into the surrounding, what are these called, peritubular capillaries. So the peritubular capillaries are there to pick up material that's being reabsorbed. So part of what happens in the renal tubule is reabsorption of filtrate. Now, some substances that don't get filtered can be dumped into the filtrate as they move in the opposite direction from the peritubular capillaries into the renal tubule. That process is called secretion. So, again, to repeat, in the renal tubules, some of the solutes and some of the water gets reabsorbed. But in addition, some things are added to the filtrate, secreted. Okay. Now, I think my drawing's pretty good. But I have another drawing here from a textbook that kind of splays things out a little bit more. Okay, let's see if we can follow this. Here's your afferent arteriole, and look, it's subdividing into the glomerulus. See, all these little openings represent a fenestrated type of capillary. Okay, and that glomerulus is surrounded by a Bowman's capsule. Together, they make up the renal corpuscle. Any blood that's not filtered enters into the efferent arteriole. From Bowman's capsule, blood is going to pass through a proximal convoluted tubule, but they didn't convolute it here. It's actually called the PCT. Okay. Now, when the PCT reaches the base of the pyramid, it then transitions into the thin descending limb. Turn around a hairpin turn, and we go into the ascending limb. The important part of which is the thick ascending limb. When we come back up to the cortex, we form the distal tubule, that we call the distal convoluted tubule, that then empties into a collecting duct. Okay. That collecting duct is going to drain urine into the minor calyx, and from there the major calyx, and from there the renal pelvis. Yes,
So we'll be wrong if we just put the proximal tubule.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Now, they show these peritubular capillaries, but they didn't want to show it surrounding the renal tubule because that was a difficult drawing. Okay? But remember that these peritubular capillaries would actually surround the renal tubule. In fact, when you have a really long renal tubule, you have these little draping loops derived from the peritubular capillaries called vasa recta that descend way down into the medulla with the tubule. So vasa recta are just looping extensions of the peritubular capillaries. And then finally, from the peritubular capillaries, blood is going to drain into an interlobular vein that corresponds to the interlobular artery. And from the interlobular vein into an arcuate vein. From an arcuate vein into an interlobar vein, segmental vein, and then renal vein. You don't have to learn any new terminology. These veins simply accompany the arteries of the same name. We're just going in reverse now. We're returning the blood that's been filtered back to the bloodstream through the inferior vena cava. In other words, the renal veins can empty into the inferior vena cava. Okay.
Dr. Penner,
Yes.
the book mentions a cortical radiate artery in between the arcuate artery and the afferent artery.
Oh, yeah, I made it a little bit simpler.
Okay,
Just go with mine.
okay.
Yeah, you can even break it down even more, but we're not going to go there.
Okay.
Okay. I like the fact that you want to learn more, though. Okay. I'm going to explain something. I'm going to do what we call in the biz an analogy. Y'all ever heard of an analogy before? Okay. I'm going to talk about making coffee, but it really has everything to do about making urine. Okay? How many people here have made their own coffee before? Oh, well then y'all can relate to this. Okay? I have like a little Mr. Coffee machine. Okay?
You don't have a Keurig?
No. Losers.
Some losers.
I'm just kidding. I'm just being silly.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Now, but most of these coffee machines will have some type of plastic disc that hold a filter, piece of filter paper. And it's kind of a fluted piece of paper like this that fits inside the disc. And this piece of paper actually has millions of tiny holes. Now, you don't necessarily see all the holes because they're tiny. But if you were to take that filter paper and put it under a microscope, you would be able to see the holes. Or if you put it even up to the light, you can see there are little holes in there. Those holes are there for the purpose of filtration. In fact, I usually like to make 4 cups of coffee on a Saturday morning. Here's the way you do it. You go 2 tablespoons of coffee, okay, for each cup of coffee. No, 1 tablespoon of coffee grounds for every 2 cups of coffee.
Right.
Right. Okay, those coffee grounds kind of large particles. Like this. They fit something like that. Now, what the coffee machine's going to do is it's going to warm up the water, and then it's going to pour it into this disc holding the coffee grounds. The water accumulates like this. And what happens is the coffee grounds become suspended within this water. And then the weight of the water is going to drive both the water and the suspended solutes down through these openings within the filter paper. Okay? So this process is called filtration. The filtrate is going to collect below in a big old pot like this. Okay? Now, I have a special apparatus that's attached to my machine. It costs a little more, but it's well worth it. Okay? Where then I pour it into this apparatus. Looks like a little box. Okay? Where the caffeine is removed. Okay? And then I have another big old pot here that collects it. Okay? Then I'm going to pour the decaffeinated coffee into my little cup, which only goes like 1 cup. Okay? I got 4. Okay? Then, when I pour it into my cup, I'm going to add some half and half, some cream. And I'm going to add some sugar. Before now, I have the final product that I drink. All right, so you see what I did there?
Yeah.
I created an analogy where what goes on up here, okay, this is what? The glomerulus,
Right.
Bowman's capsule. Okay. As this filtrate moves through the machine, it gets processed. Some stuff gets removed, reabsorbed. And at the end of the process, some stuff gets added or secreted before we have the final product.
Okay.
Same thing happens with formation of urine. Urine is the end product of filtration minus reabsorption plus whatever's secreted. That end product, urine. Same thing happens with coffee.
Okay, but we have a bigger issue if you really drink decaffeinated coffee.
I really don't, but I just needed to make it work.
They have machines where you can remove your caffeine.
No, I just made that up.
Oh.
But I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do. But
Really?
But I would just buy decaffeinated coffee.
Right.
Okay. But in order for the analogy to work, I had to do it. I
Right.
understand. Got to do it. Got to do it.
Just in case I want to buy you a cup of coffee, I have to make sure.
Right.
So that all happens after cream and sugar. That's before the distal tubule, or is that's still going on
Well,
when you reach the?
Secretion, the truth is that secretion can occur anywhere along the tubule.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Now, so the combination of the corpuscle plus the renal tubule is called a nephron. Now, we have 2 types of nephrons. About 15% of our nephrons have corpuscles that sit just above the base of the pyramid. And we call this type of nephron a juxtamedullary nephron. They didn't write very good here, but put a big old circle around this. This would be an example of a juxtamedullary nephron. The renal corpuscle sits deep within the cortex, just above the base of the pyramid. Okay? Only 15% of your nephrons are juxtamedullary nephrons. But these are the nephrons that are responsible for your ability to concentrate urine. Your ability to concentrate urine, so that if you're volume depleted or dehydrated, so that you can hold on to most of that volume. So you can produce a very scant or small volume urine, just heavily concentrated. Okay? What's so special, you might ask, about these juxtamedullary nephrons? Well, they have very long renal tubules that descend all the way down almost to the papilla. So you got the descending lymph comes all the way down here before it turns back up. So already we've talked about 2 characteristics of juxtamedullary nephrons. They sit deep in the cortex, just above the pyramid, adjacent to the pyramid, and they have very long renal tubules. A third characteristic of juxtamedullary nephrons is they have these vasa recta, these long loop-like extensions of the peritubular capillaries that descend down into the pyramid with the tubule. So that they're there to reabsorb or secrete. Now, let's just take the magic stick and follow the flow of filtrate. Okay, this is going to be fun, isn't it? Here's the afferent arteriole. Here's the glomerulus. And then the renal corpuscle here, filtrate's going to be formed. It's going to enter first within the DCT. It's going to enter into the descending limb of the family. We're going to go back up via the ascending limb of the family. Then, once we reach the cortex, we transition back to the DCT, which then drains into a collecting duct. going to take the filtrate and carry it down to the papilla, where it drains into the minor calyx. Okay. And this little chart here gives you the sequence structures through which the filtrate passes. Now, the other 85% of your nephrons are what are called cortical nephrons. Their corpuscles are located higher within the cortex. Okay? They're going to have shorter renal tubules. These renal tubules will dip down into the pyramid, but they're not going to descend all the way down to the pyramid. It's like dipping your foot into the pool instead of jumping all the way in. Okay? So that these renal tubules are surrounded by peritubular capillaries, but there are no vasa recta. By the way, notice the peritubular capillaries ultimately drain into an interlobular vein, into an arcuate vein, and then into an interlobar venous sequence. Now, the purpose of this slide is to take a look at this nephron here, and look, we're taking a little cross-section of different parts of the renal tubule, and we're looking a little bit closer at the microscopic composition. For instance, we didn't talk about this before, but Bowman's capsule has two different layers. Yeah. Okay, and here's the afferent arteriole. Here's the glomerulus. Okay. Well, if we draw the surrounding Bowman's capsule, there's a layer that hugs the glomerulus.